As a sellers, they are able to monitor behavior. How consumers are buying. What times they are buying, how they are buying, at what price point they are buying. Depending on that, many they are able to monitor their the value delivery to the consumers. It gives certain consumers the digital world. It gives certain consumers a different access to special prices. Both consumers and sellers, we are able to negotiate prices in auctions and exchanges. That is another, another factor in pricing in the digital world. They, in order to further understanding pricing, how does this came into existence, right? The changing pricing environment or environment. Sorry, that is one word I can never pronounce properly. Pricing practices, they have changed significantly since the recession, the 2008, 2009, even before that for that matter, 2000, 2001. It resulted in significant change in the pricing environment, mainly because of the resource constrained millennial cohort. The millennials, most of us who was born in the millennial generation, we are facing tremendous resource constraint. As you may know, the income levels haven't gone up in the last 15-20 years, but the cost of goods has increased tremendously. Like, for example, a cell phone service in the early 2000s used to be $35, right? Whereas today, you all know, they're paying close to $100. But our income levels haven't gone up 2.5 times or 3 times. You see what I'm saying? The result of it is it's a sharing economy where the consumers, we share bikes, cars, clothes, couches, apartments, tools, and many products. It also came into it also created a bartering system. Bartering, one of the oldest ways of acquiring goods, it's coming back through transactions, and it is estimated about $12 billion. Imagine $12 billion coming into marketplace as instead of bartering, a primary buying. This another sector of new sharing economy that is really exploding are the rentals. Is people are still trying to determine, what level is the rentals, but some numbers I've seen are close to about $23 billion in United States. The rentals, people don't want to buy cars; they want to just rent. In fact, Enterprise is a $28 billion company, of which about close to $14 billion is rental. Airbnb, you're just renting your own home. And all these businesses, they came into existence of this changing pricing environment where, the present generation is lacking resources to, in comparison with the cost of goods that we need to buy compared to our previous generations. How do companies price? The company, like the smaller companies, generally speaking, the bosses, whoever is the boss makes the price, right? Whereas in the larger companies, you have a structured process in place. You could be top management, product line managers. They set the prices. But most companies, they do not handle pricing well. They fall back on strategies like, hey, we just calculate our cost plus add our industry's margin. I've heard many times, hey, for example, a few years back, I was consulting for a technology firm. The company pretty much told us their pricing method is what is the cost plus, hey, our industry margin is 33%. Just going to pump it in. That is one approach, right? Many companies have been successful in that. Likewise, many more and not been successful in that. Some common mistakes are that they're very adamant. They are not adaptive to changes. So uh, instead of having the ability or a mindset of revising the price based on the market changes, many organizations, they set the price independently of the rest of the marketing program, rather than considering pricing as a intrinsic element, a very important element of the positioning strategy. Remember, pricing is equal to positioning. The lower the cost of the product you are selling, the changes the position of your company's product in the marketplace. And not varying, they're not varying price enough for different product items. The market segments, distribution channels, all needs to be taken into consideration before changing the price. In essence, what I'm trying to say here is pricing needs to be dynamic. Okay, it cannot be static, it cannot be rigid, it has to be fluid and dynamic, and should be adapted to the changes that happens in the business. For any organizations, in order for us to effectively design and implement pricing strategies, it requires them to have thorough understanding of consumer pricing psychology. Finally, it needs to be a systematic approach of how to set the prices, how to adapt to the prices, and when to change the prices. I just mentioned consumer psychology at the end. What is the consumer psychology and price? Purchase decisions, they're based on how consumers view prices are. How do they consider the current actual price to be? Consumers, we actively process price information. We interpret it. We look at a price and we say, hey, is it a good call or a bad call? Is it a good price or is it expensive? Is it beyond our means, or does it deliver the value that the price is demanding? The formal communication also being used by consumers. Formal communication with advertising, sales calls, brochures, as well as informal communications. How does friends talk, how colleagues talk, the referrals talk? All these things are a part of consumers' evaluation, consumers' psychology, or forming or changing consumer psychology about our product. Purchase decisions, they're generally based on how these consumers perceive prices and what they consider actual price to be. Let me see if I have the slides. Let's stick to this. In terms of reference prices specifically, few consumers can accurately recall specific prices. We cannot say how much you paid for a certain product 1 year ago, or how much was the price of the product that you bought 6 months ago, that you already bought a year ago, but 6 months after you buying, what was its price? We cannot recall. We often employ reference prices, comparing an observed price to an internal reference price. We remember as an external frame of reference, such as opposed to a regular retail price. Some of the terms that we normally hear or use are fair price. What do we feel the product should cost? Typical price, typically it is this much. Last price paid. Upper bound price, what is our topmost dollar that we are able to spend on a particular product? That an example could be car. Hey, I need a car next month, but the maximum I'm going to spend is $10,000 or $5,000. Lowest threshold price, the minimum most consumer. This is not consumer standpoint, whereas it is an organization standpoint. Like, for example, when recently we were trying to set up a chain of math centers, and all we were saying is like the minimum consumers will be able to pay, is like $180. The maximum is $300. per month. And historically, competitor prices, how different competitors are pricing, and expected future price. We expect down the line what could be a price, both from a consumer standpoint and also from an organization standpoint, and usual discounted prices. These are some of the aspects in referral prices. Whereas the price quality inference is the second point. We many consumers, we all use price as an indicator of quality. The higher the price, the higher the quality. It may not be true sometimes, but we do associate, mainly because image price. It is especially effective with ego-sensitive products like some expensive clothes, things that are visible to other people, cars, big example, houses, big example, the perfumes. It doesn't matter what's inside the bottle. When you're paying $120 for a Chanel or a Gucci, you're paying for the image, right? And when information about true quality is available, price becomes a less significant indicator of quality. So this is much more critical if an organization is able or is successful in explaining the true quality of the product. Especially the smartphones of today's generation, the new Samsung, not the one that pretty much became a bomb, the new Samsung or the Pixel or the iPhone X, when they're able to establish the true quality of the product, price becomes less significant as an indicator. It doesn't matter if they price it as $1,000 as they're priced it now, or $600. When they're able to communicate to the consumers the true quality of the product, the price is no longer a significant indicator of their quality. The last point, the price endings. Whereas I'm spending more time on this, later on some of the slides, let you read by yourself. Please don't think that this is going to be an hour and a half long lecture. The consumers, they tend to process prices left to right rather than by rounding. They go the topmost indicator on the left, meaning a $35.99 product is generally read left to right, as it's read in the western part of the world, most part of the world. An explanation of a popularity of 9 endings is that they suggest a discount or a margin. So if a company wants a high price image, it should generally need to avoid odd ending tactic. That is a philosophy behind pricing, that if they want a high price image, then it should avoid the 9 end tactic. 0 and 5 endings are also very popular, and they thought to be easier for consumer to just remember or even process. The total category sales, total category sales are highest when all the items in a category have sale signs. Past a certain point, these sale signs may cause total category sales to fall. Meaning, when you have sale for everything in your store, pretty much your total category sales will drop, because consumers are much more confused now. What's going on, right? Even if they buy, your total margins will be lower. Pricing cues such as sale signs and prices that end in 9 are more influential when the consumer's price knowledge is poor. Okay, when they purchase the item infrequently or are new to the category, or when product designs vary over time, prices vary seasonally, or quality or sizes vary across stores. Meaning, what I'm trying to say here is the pricing that ends with a 9, they are more useful or influential when consumer knowledge is poor, it's an infrequent purchase, or they're new to the category, or the product designs, they vary over time. Meaning, if it's a fast moving product, it's a continuously moving product, even if you think the price is very seasonally, 9 endings are better. Setting the price, there are 6 main steps in setting a price. A firm must decide where to position the product on its quality and price. We talked about quality and price comparison just about a few minutes ago. Having a range of price points allows a firm to cover more of the market, or more of the market, and to give anyone consumer more choices. Meaning, it pretty much having more price points will help us cover significant market to different segments in the market. The luxury products, they change the pricing aspect quite a bit. Older luxury brand extensions, accessible super premium products is one example. In the new luxury products, where pricing literally doesn't matter that much. Consumers, they often trade down by shopping at discount stores like Walmart, the Costco, for staple goods and items that have no emotional benefit but still deliver quality and functionality. Meaning, always if all I need is like eggs, I really don't have to worry about spending an expensive product. Or as much as if you want a coat, and I would just want a good quality, good brand, but I really don't care about the design aspect. Just go to Costco and buy something. Step 1 in the setting pricing strategy is, what is the objective? Generally speaking, there are 5 objectives. Generally speaking, there are 5 objectives: survival, maximum current profit, maximum market share, maximum market skimming, and product quality leadership. Those are the 5 main objectives in setting pricing. The companies pursue survival as their major objective, though, especially if they are plagued with intense competition, changing consumer wants. Most companies, they try to set a price that will maximize the current profits. This is a human psychology, or just organization psychology. The way we set prices initially, at least, is how do I maximize profits? Our initial pricing strategy would be, even if I lower the price now, in future I want to increase it in such a way that this is where it's going to be. Some companies, though, they maximize. They use a pricing to maximize the market share. Say, like, I want to increase my market share. So an example I can say is, like, recently as I think 20 days ago, we were investigating, as I mentioned earlier, setting a chain of math centers. And initial strategy we discussed is pretty much setting a price to just capture the market. There's a lot of competition in the marketplace, but we are like, okay, we need to set a price not to maximize our profit in the first couple of years, but to set it in a way that we capture the maximum amount of students or people. Production and distribution costs fall with accumulated production experience. As your experience in the product increases, as your experience in your distributing, in your advertising increases, your total cost fall, right? And as the cost falls, you increase the profits. Even that could be considered in such a way. Lower price discourages actual and potential competition. Like, going back to the market share example, in the same vein, the lower the price you are introducing in the marketplace, it discourages the actual competition, because it kind of takes away their market. And even the potential new competition that may come in the future, they are resistant to come, because you have a big price advantage and also the market advantage. companies that unveils new technology, as frequently as they can, they favor setting high prices to maximize market skimming. Market skimming is like prices start high and slowly drop over time. Uh, if it would be fatal if a worthy competitor decides to price low. Like, the Tesla, when it first came, $100,000, there's nobody else that came immediately with such quality, so it was able to be relatively successful. But had there been somebody with the same quality comes up at 50, 60, or $70,000, it would have taken a big hit. Right? It's going to happen in the next couple of years. A lot of brands are coming with these electric cars, and big brands, and we'll see how things change. And I've heard as low as 60 or $65,000, the same level of the Tesla S. Even Tesla in itself is coming up with their X model, or the 3 model, sorry. And I don't think it's the same product. It's a smaller product, right? A smaller car, but I'm talking about the bigger car, the $100,000 size car, Model S, and there's a lot of competition coming in its vein. We'll see. A company might aim to be a product quality leader in the market. That is that's one thing they could think during the setting the pricing policy. That is our goal. Non-profit and public organizations, they may have other objectives. They may have other reasons why they produce a product or other ways. Like an example is, UNICEF greeting cards is one example. It's always set a decent price, and for them the cost is lower, and no taxes, of course, and a lot of organizations partnering. So for them, the objective is quite different. The second step is to determine the demand. What's the demand for your product? Each price point, it will lead to a different level of demand. Each price point, and it has a different level of demand and has a different impact on the company's marketing objectives. There is normally an inverse relationship. I think I have the graph. Yeah, normally there's an inverse relationship between price and demand. As the price increases, the demand decreases. But at what level, we're going to talk about in a bit. The first step in estimating demand is to understand price sensitivity. Generally speaking, now, consumers are less price sensitive to low-cost items or items they buy indifferently. They are also less price sensitive when there are few options, right? And the price increase is not readily noticeable, like a bottle or a box of salt. If it increases from $1.49 to $1.59, you really wouldn't notice, right? Or $1.79, you really wouldn't notice, but you would notice if it doubles. May notice, in fact. They're slow to change their buying habits. Like if you're stuck to one specific type of product that you use, it could be a sanitary napkins or anything. You're stuck with that product choice, right? A brand choice, a type of material, and it's difficult to change. And sometimes you feel that the higher prices are justified. Sometimes you feel like, fine, it is, it's costlier, but the quality of product is good. An example is Oberweis milk. Oberweis milk is insanely expensive for not being organic. Having said that, most people, including my own family, they think the higher price is justified. The quality is great. I don't see a damn difference, but they feel the product is great, so they feel it is justified. Price is only a small part of total cost of obtaining, operating, and servicing the product over its lifetime. If that is different kind of thinking, and I don't think it happens in many circumstances. And of course not in a consumer marketplace. A seller can successfully charge a higher price than competitors if they are able to conceive, if they are able to convince customers that it offers lowest total cost of ownership. For example, many times we see that all inclusive, ready to move in homes or just drive away cars, nothing to add on later, everything is included. These things are like the total cost of ownership is lower. They're trying to show that it's all inclusive, everything is included. And there are some factors that could reduce the price sensitivity. The products are distinctive. There is less awareness of substitutes. They are hard to compare the substitutes. Small and relative to income or total cost of end product. There are some examples. Someone else is paying. I'm not paying. Why do I care? Product that are used in conjunction with assets that are bought previously. We already have a product. It could be a phone, the cover of the phone. It's bought it after buying the phone, so it has less effective price sensitivity. And the step 3 is estimating costs. Step 3 is estimating costs. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me take a step back. I forgot to tell you about this demand. So, inelastic and elastic demand. As I mentioned earlier, the demand elasticity is pretty much as price increases, demand decreases. As you can see in the graph, as the price goes up from $10 to $15, the demand decreases here. The difference between two types of demands, though, is if the demand hardly changes with a small change in price, we call it inelastic demand. If the demand changes considerably, it is elastic. The higher the elasticity, the greater the volume growth resulting from 1% price reduction. So what it's saying is, like, for example, if you go reverse, if I decrease the price from $15 to $10, not this way, not bottom up, up down, top down. So like if you're decreasing the price from $15 to $10, right? You're decreasing it by 50%, but you're increasing the demand by only from 100 to 105. So this is not a right scenario for decreasing the price. Whereas here, by decreasing it by 50%, I'm increasing the demand by almost 200%. So this is the right perspective, where if you think by decreasing the price of the product, you're going to increase the demand significantly, you should go with this. Should go in a scenario where there is an elastic demand. Now, step 3 is estimating the cost. The demand sets a ceiling on the price that company can charge for its product. The demand, again I repeat, the demand sets the ceiling on the price. It's like the higher the demand, that's the topmost guide you can get it, right? And the cost of the product is the floor, like basic level. The company's costs take two forms. The one, the fixed cost, or the variable cost. I think many of you might have seen this in other courses, as probably economics or even management courses. The fixed costs or overheads are costs that do not vary with production level or sales revenue. The fixed cost, for example, for an organization, it's the machines, the fixed cost. The base salary employees are a fixed cost. The variable costs, they vary directly with the level of production. As the production increases, the amount of electricity could increase. As the production increases, the cost of raw material would increase, right? Not per unit, overall. Total cost consists of the sum of fixed and variable costs for any given level of production. The average cost is the cost per unit at the level of production. The average cost, it is what is the cost per unit at at X level of production. If I'm able to produce 100 units, 100,000 units, what is the cost per product? Versus if I produce 200,000 units, what is the cost per product? The accumulated production, it reduces cost. As you can see, as the cost per unit, it keeps dropping as you increase the production, right? And also the experience curve also changes. The experience curve, it takes into account what is the learning curve with the processes. As the learning curve improves, meaning you're learning more and more about the process, you're learning more and more about the production aspects of the process, the cost will automatically reduce. Just not the raw material cost, it even reduces based on your experience. Target cost. The costs change with production scale and experience, as we just saw. They can also change because of the effort of the designers, the engineers, the purchasing agents to reduce the actual cost. And a great example are the American cars. When the car industry was tanked in the mid 2000, like 2005, 2008, a lot of changes happened in the industry. They started coming up with products and the pricing strategies to reduce the overall cost of the products in the marketplace. That's a very good example when it comes to how things have changed over the time because of the designers, because of the engineers and the agents. And also in terms of target costing, the price less desired profit margin. So it's pretty much you're setting up a desired profit margin, and I need $2,000 on the car. Doesn't matter what could be the cost, right? So in order to get your $2,000 and still have lesser sale price, your only way is to reduce the cost price, right? Cost price plus profit margin is equal to sale price. So that's where I'm coming up with. That's where I was talking about. Designers and engineers are working towards reducing the total cost of the product. The step 4 is to analyze competitors' costs. In essence, your competitor effects on your pricing strategy. If the competitors offer contains features that are not offered by the firm, the firm should subtract the value of it. Okay, value from its own price. The companies that are offering the good combination of low price, high quality are capturing the hearts of the people. Fortunately, United is not the best example to be on it in general right now in terms of consumer acceptability. But in terms of value price competitors, all the airlines were competing in the past at least. Now they all are pretty much equal. An example is Southwest or AirTran. When they first came into picture, they were the low cost, high value, not high quality, I would say, high value, value per price businesses that really capture consumers' hearts. One school of thought is that the organizations, they should set their own low cost operations to compete with value price competitors. So instead of reducing your primary product, they may come up with the low price products. Airlines is one example. Again, so they came up with these low versions of services that they're providing, or lower brands and lower flights, Delta connections and things like that. Their existing low price competition only if their existing businesses will become more competitive as a result. Okay, only in that case they can come up with low price competition. The new business will derive some advantages. So what I'm trying to say is like the school of thought where the organization, they should set their own low cost operations to compete with value price competitors. Only if their existing business will become more competitive as a result. And their new business will derive some advantages it would not have gained if being independent. The step 5 is selecting the pricing method. If you remember, during step 1, I mentioned the cost sets the price floor. Okay, cost, the main of the product. Then you have competitors' point. So this is your target point. And then customers' assessment of unique features. If you have unique features, they may give you a little bit more than the competition. So that is their assessment. If their assessment is nothing significant here, so that pretty much your price point. See what I'm saying? Again, I repeat, this is your floor price, which are pretty much your cost. This is your top point, your consumer's assessment of you. And this is your competition's point. If this is irrelevant or if it is zero, then all you'll end up is like near the orienting point or the competitor's point. There are various kinds of price setting methods. This is where I will ask you to read it by yourself, the next few slides. There are quite a few, actually 6 of them, I think. They're straightforward, and when you're reading these, please, you can actually read in the notes, detailed explanation of each one of them with an example. So it's not rocket science. So please read it at your convenience. There are different types of pricing methods, and they are primarily the markup pricing, target return pricing, perceived value pricing, going rate pricing, the different types of pricing. The most easiest one is the markup pricing. It's commonly used, whereas target return pricing is about how much you're expecting the return to be on your investments. The break even is like depending on your total revenue and the sales volume, you can come up with a break even point that would take into consideration your fixed cost and the variable cost. Okay. And the perceived value pricing, which is not primarily doesn't have an economic value in economic assessment. It's more about what is the value that the consumers are perceiving about your product. Okay, I'm rushing through these pricing methods as I mentioned before. So, but please go ahead and read at your convenience. They're pretty straightforward. Then comes the value pricing, or the EDLP, the high-low pricing. You price high, then you tell it it's low by giving discounts or whatnot. Then there comes the auction type pricing. It is becoming more and more popular, especially with the electronic marketplaces, where they have excess inventories, excess goods. These things are quite famous now. eBay is one example. Amazon is also coming up, also has some parts of this. Finally, step 6. The step 6 is there are the additional factors to select the final price. The other factors that could include is what is the impact of the pricing on the overall marketing activities? What is the company's pricing policies? What is the impact of the price on other parties? That could be just not internal, the external parties too, or in the overall industry per se. How does it affect? These things could be considered to before you select a final price. Having said that, your pricing method pretty much determines which way you're leading down after step 5. If your pricing method is much more static at this stage, then you're stuck. Doesn't matter what the final step is. Doesn't matter what the step 6 additional factors or whatnot. Doesn't matter at all. Pretty much the last topic in this lecture is the adapting the price. The last important topic, at least. Adapting the price. Every organizations need to adapt the price. This is one, I would say, one of the biggest mistakes by most organizations. They were unable to adapt the price, if not product changes. Something needs to happen. An example is Nokia. They died because they were not able to adapt the product, for that matter, even the price. There are companies that they're able to develop, they're able to develop pricing structures that reflects geographical demand, the cost, market segment requirements, timing, order levels, delivery frequency. Like, at least from a geographical pricing perspective, they do not send a single price based on one area, right? It has to change based on where the product is being sold, pretty much. As a result of these different variations in geographical demand, different variations in market segment requirements, purchase timings, organizations need to adapt their prices. And how do they adapt? Through discounts, allowances, promotional support, and other similar marketing activities. I repeat, in order to adapt, organizations use discounts, allowances, and other promotional support. And the price adaptation strategies that can include geographical, as I just mentioned, geographical pricing, different places, different prices, different price discounts, and differentiated pricing in terms of the services that they're providing. Sorry, there was a small pause. Somebody walked into the room. Price discrimination occurs when a company sells a product. Price discrimination occurs when a company sells a product or service at two or more prices. Meaning, I have the same product, I'm selling in two different prices, but they do not reflect proportional difference in cost. Meaning, a product X is sold at $10. Product X.1, a different version of the product, is sold at $20. But the difference between X and X.1 of $10 is not really proportional. You know what I'm saying? In the first degree of price discrimination is the way the seller charges a separate price of each customer, demanding on the intensity of his or her demand. The more the demand, the higher the price. The other way around is completely opposite. The lower the price, higher the demand. But the more if there's a product that has a higher demand, it doesn't harm you to set a higher price at that stage, if the organization feel that it's not going to lower its demand. There are different types of price discrimination that happens, like consumer segment pricing. Consumer segment pricing is different segments, they pay different prices. For example, military personnel, they generally pay lower prices, lower admission fees, or lower prices in many circumstances. Product form pricing, different versions of the product are priced differently. They're like a 2-liter bottle could be priced as X amount versus a 100 ml bottle is priced is pretty much only 50%. Okay, 50% of the 2-liter bottle price. An example is Coca-Cola, or any of the soft drinks for matter. If you ever buy a 2-liter bottle, it's probably $2.20, whereas a 1-liter bottle is $1.79. So it's the decrease in the cost is not really proportional. Image pricing, many a times we actually pay for the image of the product. An example is Toyota Highlander, which is which has a similar version of in Lexus. Pretty much two different brands of the same interior components. Even the manufacturing structures are the same, but you pay probably $25,000 more for a Lexus over Toyota. And the channel pricing is where we pay for the same product, same quantity, everything is the same, different in two different channels. Like in restaurant versus a fine restaurant versus a fast food restaurant versus a vending machine. Location pricing, the same product may be different in different locations, like just not the channel, a different location per se. It could be geographical location or for a theater versus a store. Time, which is, could be seasonal, or even during the daytime, morning prices, early bird prices, late evening prices. An example of it could be a service pricing for Uber. Different times of the day has different price. The these are and an example I mentioned in the notes is the airline and hospitality industry. They use yield management systems and yield pricing, which is a little different than the others, by which they offer discounted but limited early purchases, higher priced late purchases, and lowest rate unsold inventory pricing. So, in a sense, up until now, all we discussed is different types of price discrimination and how and why it happens and where it happens. Uh, Finally, initiating and responding to price changes. Especially initiating price cuts, is like one reason could be one is excess plant capacity. An organization, they need additional business and cannot generate it through increased sales effort, product improvement, or other measures. So all they are saying is like, we're going to decrease the cost pretty much. They initiate price cuts in a drive to dominate market through lower costs. I'm going to increase the capacity by decreasing the cost and decreasing the cost and decreasing the sales price. That's why increasing market share. Either the company starts with lower costs than its competitors, or it initiates price cuts in the hope of gaining market share. So, in essence, either you do it by decreasing the cost or decreasing the profit margin. One way or the other, you need to increase your overall survival capability of the organization. But the price cutting strategy could lead into some traps. One is low quality trap, meaning the consumers, they assume the quality of the product might be low with the decrease in pricing. Fragile market share trap, where the low price buys market share but not market loyalty, meaning you have a lot of customers coming to you because the price is lower, but they may not be loyal with you. Both behaviorally and also psychologically. Behaviorally meaning, if in the future when they need to buy, will they buy your product at the increased price or the actual price? Or psychologically meaning, are they going to talk nicely about you? Really loyal. The shallow pocket trap, the higher price competitors, they match low prices, but may have longer staying power because of deeper cash reserves. Meaning, uh, like you have a competitor, they are generally priced high, but when you price low, they are also lowering the prices. But because of their cash in the bank, they may be able to stay longer than you are. Price war trap. The competitors, they respond by lowering their prices even more, triggering a price war. You come low, I come low, pretty much. Coke and Pepsi fought it for some time, then they went into ad war. Likewise, many products in the car industry or in the cell phone industry fought this war. But quite a few organizations, they moved away from this trap. Having said that, Lowe's and Home Depot are one example in this. They always are in a price war. In, the next part is the initiating price increases. A successful price increase can increase profits considerably. Yeah. Uh, Cost inflation, especially if the cost of raw materials goes up and things like that, and excessive demand, they can provoke price increases. In escalator, another way prices can increase, like escalator clauses. The company requires consumers to pay today's price plus all or part of any inflation increase that takes place before delivery. This happens only when when there are high demand products or contracts, government contracts, and also B2B industry, where it's where one side has a higher power than the other side, the channel power. Unbundling, and the company maintains its price but removes prices separately, one or more elements that were formerly part of the offer. It like delivery and installation of a refrigerator, delivery of installation of a washing machine or dryer. They might offer combinedly today, but tomorrow they're like pricing and installation is separate, which could be another $80 or $90. So the unbundling, that is one way of price increase. Reduction of discounts. The company instructs its sales force not to offer its normal cash discounts or quantity discount, but use other ways to get the business. And then we can also initiate or respond. We can also initiate price increase because of anticipating competitive responses. Introduction of we need to consider that, especially a changing of any price can provoke a response from the competition, right? From the distributors, from segments. What is that response? What kind of response, negative, positive, influential, long-term, short-term, that needs to be considered before you initiate any price increase. Okay. That pretty much concludes this chapter. Please go through all the slides. I think I covered most, but some of the aspects that I haven't covered in the lecture, they're straightforward. Read at your convenience. Any times you're trying to wonder about certain aspect, please look at the notes and also in the book. Thank you. Have fun.